Good evening, Professor. This is my audience, my mom Rosario, my boyfriend Ken. In just a few moments, I'm going to start my persuasive speech. Thank you for watching. Good evening. My name is KBosques, if you didn't already know. And I do appreciate you coming here tonight to listen to me talk. More than you have to, which is quite a bit. Tonight we're actually going to be talking about a topic that is very, very, very widely known and also extremely common, which is texting and driving. By a show of hands, how many of us have used a phone in the car at the inappropriate time, such as texting and driving, answering a phone call? I should raise my hand as well because I'm also guilty of that. Texting and driving, or even phone usage in the car, has two sides to it, right? Like everything. And there are positive sides to it as well as negative. And I feel like I am pretty credible in that sense because I am a millennial. And as you know, we have a bad rep for the usage of phones, the increased knowledge in technology, which I don't know is such a bad thing. But we are pretty known for the texting and driving specifically. And so with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a little bit of a further look as to what I mean by the phone usage in the car. Let's start off with some of the negative outcomes because I feel like the negative ones are a little bit easier to come to mind. When you think of texting and driving, you think of car accidents, right? And that's typically one of the most common reasons why a car accident has occurred, as I've seen, is due to the texting and driving and the inappropriateness of the timing of the texting and driving. According to the CDC, there's actually 1 in 3 people between the ages of 18 and 64 that reported texting and driving within the last month, which is very, very scary because that means 1 in 3 cars that you see on the road probably are texting and driving or using the phone or checking Facebook or Snapchat or any social media, which again is very scary because when you're behind the wheel, that's a very, very, very inappropriate time to check the phone. So I feel like a lot of us tend to feel like we have to answer the call that's coming in or the text message right away. And I think that's because when we're at home or with friends or at the mall or wherever that may be, we're just doing it out of habit. And so behind the wheel makes no difference. And so how do we fix this, you may ask? Well, there are many, many reasons, many ways that this can be fixed. But one specific way that stands out to me is actually knowing your limitations. And what I mean by that is, if you're at a stop sign, probably not the best time, but still you're at a stop sign. If there's no cars behind you, there's no oncoming traffic or any cars that need to cross the intersection, if you do have to get that quick call in or the quick text, I feel like that may be somewhat of an appropriate time versus driving on the highway where the speed limit is 65 and above. That's probably definitely not the appropriate timing. And so knowing your limitations and knowing when it is okay to answer the call and when it's not okay to text back is essentially a way that can be helpful in just kind of keeping everybody safe. So a lot of people tend to forget that when you look at the phone or when you text and drive, you are distracted from everything else going on around you. And so you don't really see what's going on. There could be a car that's coming eastbound and you're going north. And now you've driven through the intersection and caused a collision. Whatever the case may be, all because you were looking at your phone. So knowing your limitations essentially is extremely important. There's another thing that has come about recently here, maybe not so much recently, but recently since I've been driving it feels like, is the hands-free. And so that means that the car has capabilities to link up to Bluetooth, which is super popular and always has been since it came out. But that's kind of another way that can be beneficial when it comes to phone usage in the car, because essentially you can answer the call via Bluetooth. Some cars even have where you can answer it right from the little dash where your radio is at. So that's also another way, and that could also be seen as a distraction, which is, I understand as well, because essentially if a call's coming in, you're glancing over at your little dash screen to see who's calling to answer the call. So I guess also knowing your limitations with that and what's appropriate with Bluetooth or hands-free is also beneficial. A lot of people think about negatives only when it comes to phone usage, but there are positives, such as if you were involved in a car accident, if you have a flat tire, if you have run out of gas. A phone in the car essentially is super beneficial at those times because you can call 911, you can call your backup person to come help you in the time of crisis. So having a phone in the car is not always bad, as I stated. Just knowing your limitations and knowing what's right and when the time is right is essential. So with this in mind, again, I've spoken about two sides of the story with texting and driving and phone usage and driving. There are negatives, there are positives, and hopefully you can take away with what I'm trying to say, which is be safe, don't text and drive. Thank you. Thank you, Professor.